Was geht ab, meine Freunde? Was geht ab, meine Soldaten? Was geht ab, meine Weggefährten? Heute ziehen wir uns mal was rein. Ein Killerpaar realisiert, dass die Polizei nun ihr Mörderhaus entdeckt hat. Ey, das ist eigentlich nur auf Englisch, ja? Also ist auf Englisch, ist halt nur mit deutsche Untertitel. Das ist halt schwierig, weil in Deutschland wird das Ganze nicht ausgestrahlt. Und mich macht es so neugierig, weil in Amerika solche kranke Sachen passieren an Morde, Digga. Das, das ist schon, das ist schon kranker wie in Filmen. Auf jeden Fall, Chat, wir ziehen uns gemeinsam rein. Holt euch was zum Essen, was Süßes, was zum Trinken. Und genießt.
Step out of the car. Ma'am, move over here. Hands up, please.
Why are you doing this?
Let me ask you
Why you
this.
doing this?
What did you do to that girl?
Why you doing this? Why? Why? Oh man, please stop. Kranke Menschen, ich schwöre auf alles, kranke Menschen. Ey, Chat, sieht es nicht aus? Kennt ihr noch, wo man noch so klein war, wo man immer so neugierig war, so möchte gern so Horrorhäuser, so Geisterhäuser, so verlassene Häuser. Digga, das sieht genauso aus. Sieht genauso aus. Und wisst ihr, wie viele Häuser in Amerika dort so aussehen? Und die Menschen leben wirklich dort.
If anyone's up there, come down with your hands up now.
I think there's blood on this wall. Yeah, this looks like dried blood.
These cops just found the bloodstains of a missing girl. Samantha Guthrie left her mother's house the previous day, never to be seen again, and her blood was just discovered on the walls of this abandoned house. But the police are about to realize that...
Ey, Chat, wisst ihr, wie viele Menschen immer vermisst gemeldet werden? Ey, Digga, das ist krank. Ernsthaft, wirklich, bei aller Liebe. Ey, und viele werden auch gar nicht mehr gefunden. Die werden vielleicht irgendwann tot aufgefunden, irgendwo, was weiß ich, Alter, wird irgendwas wieder aufgedeckt, irgend so ein Mord, wie hier zum Beispiel, jetzt bestimmt gleich, habt ihr jetzt gerade mitbekommen, getrocknetes Blut, wer weiß, wie lange schon das ganze Blut, wie lange das Blut schon da lag und das getrocknet ist, wisst ihr, was ich meine? Und die haben ja auch gerade gesagt, das war von einem Mädchen, die DNA, was schon seit sehr langer Zeit gesucht wird. Auf jeden Fall, ey, Digga, das ist krank, Alter. Ich frag mich, Digga, was machen die Eltern, Alter? Bei aller Liebe.
This is a couple's murder house. And the killers have already fled across town, hunting for their next victim.
Why don't you explain what's going on?
Just really chased this. That's right.
With no idea who the next victim of the killer couple could be, and with time running out, detectives find themselves entangled in a web of multiple suspects, all tied to the abandoned murder house.
You're looking at some serious problems.
I got nothing to say to y'all. Without my attorney present, nobody else sitting here, I got nothing to say.
Help us. This is serious. She deserves to be killed like this.
Everything started in November 2018, when a mother called police worried that her daughter had vanished without a trace. It had already been more than a day since anyone had seen 18-year-old Samantha Guthrie, and the cops arrived quickly to take her mother, Joni's, statement.
Hello. What's going on? Okay, four.
My daughter.
Okay. How old your daughter?
Ja, die macht doch die Zigarette, macht die noch die direkt an dem Haus, an dem Gehweg, an dem Geländer zum Festhalten. Macht die einfach. Digga, diese Menschen sind so tief gesunken. Digga, alle. Ey, das sind für mich keine Menschen.
She's 18.
Okay, so what makes her missing?
Ich frage, guck mal, ihre Tochter ist weg. Die kann sie nicht finden, gell? Die meldet sie als vermisst, die Polizisten kommen, dies, das, pipapo. Die ist so gelassen, so ruhig. Ich weiß nicht, Jani, Alter. Keine Ahnung. Digga, ich weiß nicht, Alter.
Can't find her. We got a call yesterday saying she was shot in the head, thrown in the trunk of a car, and they took off. The police were called yesterday. They went over to the house that it supposedly happened at. They checked. They said they didn't see anything.
Right. Okay. And where was this supposed to be at?
On Lillian.
Lillian. Where's Lillian at? I've never heard of it.
Little did this cop know, he'd become extremely familiar with Lillian Street, as it would become the site of hours and hours of investigation and one of the most disturbing crimes to come out of the city in years. But for now, it sounds as though Samantha was murdered, or at the very least kidnapped. But nobody can be sure. All of this information came over a mysterious phone call from someone they didn't even know.
What's the address again?
375 Lillian.
Why would she be over there?
Because she's started getting into bad stuff.
Okay.
She turned 18.
Junge, wenn du doch die Adresse weißt, wo sie sich aufhalten könnte, warum fährst du nicht dahin, du dicke Hängebauchnudel, Alter?
When was that? So that's the house right there?
I don't know what the house looks like.
Okay.
I didn't go there.
It turns out the house that Joni is talking about was due to be boarded up in just a few days. It's in a rough area of town and has been abandoned for months. And as Joni said, Samantha had been struggling heavily. She left home as soon as she turned 18 and instantly fell in with a bad crowd. She was often seen frequenting abandoned houses known to be used by drug abusers and criminals, and she was slowly getting more distant from her family.
Yeah, the Lillian address is vacant.
I know.
And the officers had it boarded up. So, we didn't see there's no blood, no nothing. And to be honest with you, I think somebody's playing a prank on you.
After this, Joni would give over a description of Samantha, including a distinctive butterfly tattoo on her right arm, before telling the cop one more crucial piece of information.
The name of the person she was last with, the supposed person that shot her.
Okay, sure.
Danny Hamby.
Who? Danny Hamby?
This wasn't a familiar name to police, and the officer still wouldn't seem to be too worried by the situation, but that would soon come to change. Because the very same evening, after publishing a missing persons report of Samantha, a lone man would come to police claiming he knew exactly what happened to her, and would lead police to launch a months-long investigation into multiple people, all connected to the abandoned murder house. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about Surfshark, the sponsor of today's video. Surfshark can help you save money, secure your browsing, and even...
Chat, Werbung, Alter, nix für uns. Sei ihm gegönnt, alles schön und gut, aber ja, nee, Alter, zum Teil gehen die Werbungen über Minuten. Guck dir das mal an. Jetzt beginnt's erst.
Detailed description of Samantha, and the morning after, a very worried man would contact and claim to have details that could either save her life or lead them to her body.
All right, today is Tuesday, and we're here with, what's your first name?
John Marshall.
All right, so we're here to talk about something that happened over on Lillian Street back in November 4th.
Mm-hmm.
All right, why don't you tell me about what happened that night?
John Marshall was the first of many witnesses in this case, and he got in contact with the cops after hearing that they were looking for Samantha. Apparently, he was actually at the house on the night everything happened, and saw it all with his own two eyes. The problem is, it almost sounds too good to be true. The cops don't know Marshall and can't necessarily trust him to give a truthful statement, meaning they'll have to verify all evidence he gives over. So as Marshall talks to the cops, we'll be keeping track of each piece of information and then following how the cops investigate and verify it all in order to hopefully solve the case and find Samantha.
Sam had been trying to get a ride over to the house for a few hours. I didn't feel like driving anymore to go pick her up, so I didn't pick her up that night. And a few hours later, she showed up from an Uber, I'm guessing, that her dad had.
All right, now when you say the house, what's the address?
75 Lillian.
Okay.
I'm guessing, from what I've been told, her dad paid for an Uber for her to get over there.
Okay.
This is already an easy piece of information to verify. If Samantha's dad did pay for the Uber, then he'd certainly remember that and be able to confirm it. And conveniently, the cops had interviewed her dad a few hours later, and he did indeed tell him that he'd bought her an Uber that night. On top of that, the address Marshall gave was also correct, so it seems that he's turning out to be trustworthy so far.
But I was walking to the Circle K on Copley and Rhodes to get cigarettes and a soda when I seen her and Yoshi walking to the house on Lillian. And about a half hour after I got back to the house, and half hour, 45 minutes or so, Danny showed up and knocked on the back door. I answered the door.
Now, how do you know Danny?
Just in passing.
Do you know him from the house?
Yeah.
And you know what his last name is?
Andy.
Now, things are starting to get weird. That's the name that Joni said could be the killer, and Marshall seems to know him and the people he's friends with.
Okay, was he by himself?
No, he was with Tony.
Okay.
Is what I was told her name was. And that one black guy that I've never seen before.
Okay, do you know what he looks like?
Yeah. I think, what's his name? Marcus? Something with an M, I want to say. Or,
What's he look like?
William.
Okay, William. All right, what's he look like?
Tall, about 6'2", 6'3", 225, medium build,
Okay.
dark skin.
So they came up to the back door?
Yeah.
All right, and they knocked on the door?
Yeah.
And who let him in?
I did.
Okay, so you let him in, and then what happens?
They went upstairs and talked to Jody. Upstairs in Jody's room was Jody, Kim, Kate, Sam, then Danny and Tony, and William stayed downstairs.
This is incredibly useful information that Marshall is passing over. He's just given the names of 6 potential witnesses and suspects, and he seems to know them all personally. If this is all true, then Marshall could have just taken this case from no leads at all to almost too much to handle. The only thing the cops need now is verifiable information about exactly what happened to Samantha. That's when the detective asks this question, and gets much more than he bargained for.
All right, so Sam and all of them were upstairs.
Yes.
So what happens next?
I didn't hear any yelling or anything, but music was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam came downstairs looking kind of distraught, and she looked at me. I'm like, then go out the back door. Go out the back door. If you know, she kind of looked like she was panicking, so I'm like, leave.
Right.
But she went to the basement, and 2 or 3 minutes later, I heard a little bit of a commotion, and then Sam came upstairs first, and she had like a little bit of a bloody nose.
Okay.
Or a busted lip, I couldn't tell. And she went back upstairs to Jody's room. Danny and Tony followed.
Like, followed her or chased her?
No, followed. They just kind of, followed. And 5, maybe 10 minutes later, Sam came running down the stairs. Danny was right behind her, and by the time she got to the 4th or 5th stair down from the living room floor, he shot her in the back of the head.
It doesn't get much clearer than that. Apparently, Samantha then fell to the ground, and the house fell into disarray. 2 men named Yoshi and William then started to order Marshall and his friends around before helping to carry Samantha's body to a vehicle outside. The detective was starting to get a perfect picture of what this case really was, but there was still one burning question.
Okay, is Sam alive?
It sounded she was making noises, but in my past experiences, it sounded more like death gargles, your body's shutting down.
Okay.
Honestly.
So she's still kind of breathing at this point.
Yeah, but she got shot in the back of the head by 8 to 10 inches away with a Smith & Wesson MP40.
Okay.
From the sounds of it, Samantha technically survived the shot, but it wasn't looking good. If she wasn't taken to a hospital quickly, she likely wouldn't have made it, but it doesn't seem like the killers were expecting her to live. At least the cops now have a possible murder weapon, a Smith & Wesson MP40. Remember though, the cops have already searched the house and didn't find any evidence of a murder, but given the importance of this information, they decide to go back and see if they missed anything. At this point, Samantha's life hangs in the balance. If they find a single bullet casing or blood splatter, it likely means that Marshall was telling the truth and Samantha is long dead.
So I'll just pull up.
After police, anyone here? Make yourself known.
These are the steps that Samantha was allegedly shot on, but the cops can't stop to investigate yet. Knowing how hot this house is and how many places there are for people to hide, they have to be on high alert and clear the entire place out before they can even think about letting their guard down. All 3 officers have their guns drawn and are doing their best to stick together should anybody be inside.
I'm going left. I can't get it.
Clear.
seems like the house is empty, but it's a complete mess. There's no obvious evidence of a murder anywhere, so it's now clear why the cops didn't find anything their first time here. However, Marshall had told them two very important things: exactly where the shot was allegedly taken, and more importantly, that William and Yoshi had actually come back to clean up the scene. That means that any signs of the murder could be extremely difficult to find, but not impossible. In fact, you've actually already seen some evidence that proves Marshall's story to be 100% true. Take another look at the marking on this wall, right below the crack. It's a little difficult to see, but that isn't graffiti. That's Samantha Guthrie's blood. Once the cops spotted this, it all fell into place. Multiple blood spatters that hadn't been cleaned up were found on the walls, as well as the bullet casings that looked similar to the bullets that the Smith & Wesson MP40 uses. Marshall was telling the truth. Danny and Tony were now wanted for murder, and they had 4 other witnesses they could use to track them down and convict them. And in fact, they wouldn't have to wait long, as police were soon called to a house where a girl claimed a couple had chased her with a gun.
This young lady came in my back door, and what's going on?
Digga, kranke Welt, Alter.
You want to step outside and talk? Who's they? Huh? Do you need EMS for anything?
This is Kimberly. One of the girls that Marshall mentioned was at the house the day Samantha was shot. The owners of this home called the cops after she begged them to let her inside as she was being chased, allegedly by some others that frequent the house on Lillian Street. The cops are desperate to know what could have possibly made her this distressed, so they bring her outside to their cruiser to talk.
You're safe now, okay? Why don't you explain what's going on? So, who's they? What do they look like?
This guy named Human.
Black guy, white guy?
Black, like short.
What was he wearing?
Black pants and a black short sleeve hoodie thing that like had a hood, like it's drawstrings right here, but it wasn't like a hoodie.
Just one black guy?
You know, they were just with a bunch of white guys. And I think
a black and white guy?
There was a black guy, like 3 white guys. And then it makes I think oh, that was his friend.
Whatever happened to Kimberly was clearly a blur to her, but the cops are starting to get a little concerned. Barely a couple days after Samantha's supposed death, one of the witnesses gets chased by a group of people holding guns. It could just be coincidence, albeit a terrifying one, so the cops ask her why she was in town to see if this could be related to anything else, and they get the most worrying answer possible.
So you're from the Falls, you were visiting a friend here in Akron. Where's that friend at now? And where do you know where they live?
I have no idea where they are. I have no idea.
I'm gonna run her name.
What's the friend's name? What's her last name?
Harris.
Jody Harris. Do you know what street she lives on?
That's a guy.
What's that?
It's a guy.
Okay, what street does he live on?
He's on Leah.
On Lee? What is it? Lillian?
The only reason Kim was in town was to meet her friend Jody on Lillian Street, and she doesn't know anyone else from around here. That's when the cops come to a horrifying realization. They think Kim was just attacked because she was a witness to Samantha's supposed murder, and now they have a terrifying situation on their hands. If they don't track down the killers and all their accomplices quickly, they could be looking at a lot more than just one murder. This case had now become a top priority, and all local officers and detectives were on high alert for any leads that could help them find even just one of the suspects. And that's when they got a potentially life-saving call. A man was claiming that Danny and Tony had pulled a gun on him inside the house, and that the suspects were now in the parking lot outside bragging about killing somebody just days earlier. Cops immediately headed to the scene, thinking this might be their chance to catch the lead suspects behind Samantha's disappearance.
Step out of the car. Step out of the car. Ma'am, move over here. Step out of the car. Hands up, please. Hands up, please. What is that? Okay. Put all that stuff down. Put it down.
Why? Why are you doing this?
Put it down. Hands on top of your head.
Why are you doing this?
Stay right there. Turn around. Turn around. Nope. Stay right there. I'm telling you for now, okay? I'll explain to you what's going on in a second. Do you have any sharp on you?
No.
Any weapons or anything? Don't reach for nothing. Do you have any weapons on you? Have a seat. Stand up for me.
Ich frage mich, ob ein Polizist auch alle in solchen Fällen dann in dem Moment dann auch eine Frau kontrollieren darf. Wisst ihr, was ich meine? Nicht, dass es dann im Gericht dann gegen ihn ist. Amerika ist hier voll krank. Guck mal, der Trottel. Guck mal, wie der aussieht. Guck mal.
Blisters?
Blisters and fucking, it's called jumper rock. There's another one right here.
Where at? Don't reach.
Yeah. What do they call it? Fifth pocket? Fifth pocket right here.
Okay.
There's a knife right there.
I'll take care of it.
I just want to make sure I got a bag of needles in my pocket.
A bag of needles, you said?
Yes, sir.
So far, this has been surprisingly easy. At this point, the officer had no idea it would actually be the interrogations that'd be the hardest part of this process, but he's enjoying the simplicity while it lasts. Soon, a couple more officers arrive on the scene to help search Danny and Tori, secure them, and collect some information before they're taken away for questioning.
I haven't been upstairs to talk to whoever lives here yet. Okay. When I pulled up, he was in the driver's seat. She was digging in the trunk. As soon as she saw me, because she did something, she closed it real fast. I just did a quick pat down to make sure they have any guns on him. But if you guys could try to get a hold of him, figure out what the hell is going on here.
You don't have anything on you that's gonna poke me, frick me, anything like that, right? No weapons we need to be aware of. If you do, tell me now.
I actually have my gun. I only had it because.
Where is it at? Is it loaded?
It's not loaded. I only have it because I'm lazy.
Is it right here on the side?
Yes.
I don't want to set it off.
I
know.
I never used it before. My mom made sure I took it with me for the accurate. I'm good more.
She got a gun in her wall. I haven't found his yet.
Where's her? You got a gun?
I had 2 knives off laying there.
2 knives. What's your name?
Danny,
Is it okay if I check your pockets here real quick? Yeah, we're not trying to give you one hard time. We got a call that people with guns and warrants and things like that.
Warrants? You have to look at there a little bit of
fentanyl?
Junkie
hell,
seller.
no, Lord, no.
What is it?
Meth.
Meth? Just come around here. There you go, good.
Eventually, the officers brought Danny and Tony back to the station for interrogation, and this is where the hard part started for the detectives.
Lieutenant Wade and Detective Ross. How you doing? So, they got you with a gun. Okay. You okay?
I want my attorney.
Okay. Can I read it to you then anyway?
Yeah.
For the record? You have the right to remain silent. You understand this, right?
Here, it's important to note that Danny thinks he's been brought in just because of the gun incident. At this point, he is unaware that police have him and Tony as lead suspects for Samantha's disappearance. Detectives are doing this to potentially lead him into a fake story or timeline that they can prove wrong later.
You've indicated that you want to talk to your lawyer?
Correct. I don't know what it's about, but I still want my attorney. I know that.
Okay.
I do this.
All right. I don't know what to do about your...
I got 11 numbers. Give me my attorney.
All right. Man, I don't know what we can do about your freezing, but maybe get you out of here as soon as we can. How's that? While you're here, can we cover, at least cover something?
You can talk, right? Don't say nothing.
You mind if we get some swabs from you?
Like I said, you can talk, right? Don't say nothing.
All right.
Look, I'm gonna tell you like this, man. I got 11 numbers, 23 years in the system. I ain't got nothing to say to y'all. Without my attorney present, nobody else sitting here, I ain't got nothing to say.
Danny's been in this situation before, and he knows exactly what to do. At the very least, stall the detective's process for as long as possible. He's staying quiet and refusing to speak without an attorney present, as is his right. So the detectives have no other choice but to switch over to Tony and see if she will budge instead.
Let's have a seat there, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Witness, Detective Ross.
Hello.
Hi.
But I didn't know anything else KPW. I never had a weapon before in my life. My mom gave it to me because I started working here at LEICHEN. So.
We're gonna read your Miranda rights, okay?
They already did that.
Okay, good. Okay, you understand them and everything? Okay. There's a girl that's missing. And we have strong reason to believe he's involved in her disappearance.
He couldn't do that.
So.
He couldn't do that.
Why couldn't he do it?
Because he's not that type of person.
Okay, but like I said, we have a lot of information pointing to his involvement in this girl's disappearance. So what I want from you to know if you've ever seen this girl before, and think hard before you answer, because we want to know if you've seen her. Okay, and you've never seen her before, that's true.
They're deciding to be a lot more upfront with Tony and treat her not as a suspect, but more of a witness. It's likely she wouldn't confess to being involved in the murder, but they think there could be a chance that she'd turn Danny in if she thought it meant she'd get away. Unfortunately, though, having been on the wrong side of the law in the past herself, she's not about to help the cops out so easily.
I'm gonna be straight with you. He's looking at some serious problems. And from what you're telling me, if you were with him that whole time, the past 3 days, which she went disappeared in the last 3 days. So if you were with him the whole time, you know what my next leap is.
Well, that's ridiculous because he was with me. We were in Warren.
Think real hard, because this is very important to what happens with you in the future. Okay?
No, I get that. I'm not that stupid.
Okay, hang on. Hear me out. So this is not a misdemeanor crime we're investigating. We don't do that, okay? When we get involved, something bad has happened. We know some other stuff went on this weekend, specifically yesterday, Saturday night, at a house in Akron. So I don't want you to get in any trouble with something that you were just along for the ride. But if you're gonna sit here and tell us with you the whole time, you think you're helping him, but you're not.
You're hurting yourself.
Let me tell you about the house where it happened at. We've talked to people that's been at the house. They were all at this house where this girl disappeared from. In fact, something bad happened to her at the house. You know why we know that? Because the guys, we've already talked to him all day. We spent all day talking to him. And he gave us detailed accounts of what happened at that house. You have to think hard about how you want to handle this, because if you're going to sit here and vouch for him, that can get you caught. That can get you in trouble. You have kids?
Yes,
you
I have
mentioned
2 kids.
2 boys?
Yes.
Okay. What would you do if one of those boys went missing?
Everything I could to find them.
Okay, would you expect people to help us to find them, to locate them?
Yeah.
The route the detective is taking is obvious and would work on the majority of people. He's trying to scare Tony into giving up what she knows so they can get to the bottom of things faster. If she gives Danny up, she might get a good deal with them, but if not, things could end up real badly for her. The most interesting dynamic here, though, is how the detective is trying to use Marshall's earlier statement against her. This happens all the time, but usually they're exaggerating the strength of the evidence or making it up completely. This time, though, they actually have an airtight statement, but Tony simply doesn't believe them. That means she thinks she can just continue to deny everything, and instead of taking a deal for less jail time, she can just get away with no charges. So with this in mind, watch how confidently she denies everything, unaware that the detectives know every word she speaks is a lie.
So, this girl's family has been out looking for her all day. Okay, but unfortunately, we already know what happened to her. So from here on out, anything that based on what you're telling us, I mean, we're giving you this chance to talk to us now. Anything that in relation to her, what happened to this girl, is going to be attached to you too. Okay, because we're giving you a chance. But if you want to cover for him, that's fine. I don't care. It don't matter. It don't matter to me.
That's just.
We're going to move on
I'm
with the
sorry
investigation.
that this happened to that girl. I don't.
We have reason to believe you were there.
That I was there.
Mhm.
I don't kick it in Akron like that. I just started to come to Akron when I got hired.
We're not saying that it was a every weekend thing, but we're saying that we have reason to believe, based on what we've been doing all day, you were there.
No, sorry, I've never seen that girl in my life.
And we have people that have told us you were there.
Oh, that's ridiculous, because I don't know anybody really from...
You know, actually, in addition to the people that we talked to, said that this all started because you and this girl got into some kind of altercation.
I don't know this girl. I've never seen this girl.
Okay, like I said, once we move forward in this investigation, from what you're telling us, since you're with him, you're going to be attached to whatever we do with him. You understand that, right?
Well, yeah, I'm his girlfriend.
Okay, just so we got that clear.
I've never seen that girl.
Who's that?
I don't know who that is either.
You hardly even looked at him.
I looked at him. I don't know who that is.
Well, I got to know him, so did Detective Ross. We got to know him a lot today. We spent the entire day with him.
Well, what's his name?
And, well, that's not important. You don't know him, so what difference does it make?
In reality, Tony is extremely familiar with the man in the photo, as he's the man that helped load Samantha into her car. That man is Yoshi. Conveniently, Yoshi, whose real name is Dylan, had just been brought in on unrelated warrants, and detectives couldn't believe their luck. One of the main witnesses, possibly even an accomplice, had been brought right to them without any effort whatsoever. The best part? Dylan wasn't the hardened criminal they expected. In fact, his interrogation was unlike anything you've ever seen. Not only is it truly heartbreaking, but it was actually key to putting not one, not two, but 3 people behind bars for Samantha's murder.
Help us. This is serious. Did something bad happen to her?
I don't know.
She's a young girl, man.
No.
What happened to her?
I don't know. I just found her a couple of days ago.
Help us. Help us. Do you see something bad?
Not 5 minutes into the interview, we see an emotion painted on Dylan's face you don't often see in the interrogation room. He's holding back tears, trying to hide his face, and is exhibiting a type of stress you rarely see in criminals. He's terrified and devastated at the same time. After all, he's just 19 years old. He shouldn't be caught up in all of this. The detective picks up on this immediately and wants to figure out precisely why Dylan feels so strongly about all this. They spend some time discussing simple details, with Dylan deflecting pretty much everything. But this whole time, the stress is building up in Dylan, and 15 minutes later, the detective notices that he's on the verge of completely breaking down, and he decides to exploit this perfectly.
What did you see?
I told you what I saw.
No, I mean, there's more that you saw. We need your help. She deserved to be killed like this. Help us. What if this was your family member, your sister? Hey, there comes a time where in your life where you have to make a right decision, do the right thing. We need your help.
She's actually dead.
Okay.
Is she?
That's what I'm talking to you about. Did you see something that happened to her? If we talk about it, you're going to feel like the weight of the world is off your shoulders. There's only one thing that makes a person get this emotional. That's if they saw something bad.
I remember a couple of days ago when we were talking, we were having a good time, and I don't know why.
Don't know why what?
Why I feel so close to her.
So you guys said, well, you're close to the same age, right? You felt a connection with her? Because you maybe had the same problems growing up and stuff like that?
Probably.
What did you guys talk about? Just life and stuff like that?
Yeah. We listen to music as well.
Did you guys listen to?
You guys like? She played music. I don't really prefer music. I just like the white noise.
It's tough, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry we're here.
I didn't find up to this point. Not talking about it, not thinking about it. I mean, I was thinking about it, but
what were you thinking about?
Just that this person that could have been a potentially good friend, or maybe, I don't know, is not going to be that person.
No, it hurts. Maybe you can help her. She may not be here, but that doesn't mean you can't help her.
Help her what?
Let's find out what happened to her.
There are hardly any words to describe what Dylan must be feeling here. He was clearly born on the wrong side of the tracks and fell in with a bad crowd. He also clearly loved Samantha, which is really the biggest tragedy of all. Over the dozens of interrogations with witnesses that were conducted, detectives realized that Samantha was murdered over a small disagreement with Danny and Tony. It was needless, senseless, and ruined countless lives, and Dylan is unwillingly right in the center of it all. The detective gives Dylan a moment to calm down and work through his emotions. Then he tells Dylan that he has one more chance to tell him what happened, bring peace to Samantha's family, and get to the bottom of this once and for all.
I was on my way out. Sam came back and I guess his girl or someone came in with her. They were yelling at each other, arguing, going towards the direction of downstairs. She turned around, came back, either slapped her or put something on her cheek or something. I don't know. And she went downstairs. And while she was on the stairs, turning that corner to go down the rest of the stairs, he followed her and held the gun up, shot. I don't know where he hit her. He only grazed her. She fell on the ground at the bottom of the stairs. I had to carry her out to the trunk.
Did you make you do that? Did you make you carry her out to the trunk?
I wasn't going to.
You still have the gun out at that time?
No. But I mean, that's not what had me do it. I mean, there's a body in the living room and blood everywhere. So we got on the furniture, or I got on the furniture, tore up the carpet, cleaned up the wooded floor underneath.
Where's the carpet at?
Gone.
Gone where?
Burned.
How'd you get all the furniture out of there?
I moved it.
What did you do once it was outside?
It wasn't outside, it's all in the kitchen.
Still in there?
Everything Dylan has said lines up perfectly with not just Marshall's statement, but the evidence too. Outside, the detectives found a fire pit where something had recently been burned. They surmised that this was a carpet with all of Samantha's blood on it. And inside, right at the bottom of the stairs we looked at earlier, a large area of carpet and drywall are missing right where Samantha was shot. However, that's where Dylan says his involvement ended, meaning he can't answer the single most important question that the detective still had. Where was Samantha's body? For that, they told the cops to turn to the fourth and final suspect that the cops had had since the very beginning, William, who Dylan said left in the car with Danny to hide Samantha's body.
Our concern is obviously mostly for the family. I think you're probably feeling that way too a little bit. Whatever this girl's relationship with her mom and dad, she has a mom and dad, and they want to be able to bury the kid. We know she's dead. I know you're probably wiped out. We're wiped out. We've been at this this morning, so we're wiped out too. I know you probably haven't eaten either, and I understand you're having some issues as far as where you guys actually were at. So we want you to try at least think about where are you guys with the body in the back of the car.
I remember going, backing out and going up the hill. And unfortunately, it's just the way that I was laying down in the back.
You were like actually physically laid down, or you
Yeah,
were
like
just kind of relaxing?
No,
Like
they
this?
They
You were all the way out.
They wanted me to lay low. Like, I was crunched up, I was down. I thought they wanted me to lay down in the back and they wanted me to see where we're going. And I really thought that was it for me, really.
William was happy to cooperate with the detectives, which made their jobs considerably easier. The only problem is that he didn't actually see where they drove. He was forced to lay down in the back of the car so nobody saw him in the car from the outside, so he might not be as helpful as the detectives initially thought. However, he was able to tell them that they didn't travel for very long and gave a description of the area where they finally hid the body.
Was there like a lot of, was it a real rural area? Was there a lot of
it was getting more rural at that point, you know. I remember just a lot of, before we got to the place with the fenced off area where he pulled in, where he wanted to, I guess, take her body to, I just remember like a lot of taller trees. I remember seeing a lot of orange, you know, a lot of the fall colors, you know, just really popping out. Like it was just really, really bright because there was so many trees. You know, so I knew we were getting more work. Then I popped up to get out of the car. I guess it was just like a 2-lane road, you know, not really marked, you know, just a 2-lane road. I didn't see any cars coming and going.
It wasn't the most detailed description ever, but it turns out it was all they needed. A few days later, an officer mentioned they might know an area just outside of Akron that matched the description. So they sent out a patrol car to search the area, and sure enough, they found it. Samantha's body lying amongst the dirt, not even buried, just dumped out in the open. Immediately, they were able to identify it by the butterfly tattoo on her arm that her mother had mentioned all those days ago. Their search had finally come to an end, and her family could finally make peace. The only question now was what to do with the suspects. The detectives clearly named Danny as the murderer, with Tony having a large role in the murder too. However, despite how helpful William ended up being, the rest of his interview and other witness statements implied he had a lot more to do with the murder than he initially let on. So he was charged with abuse of a corpse and tampering with evidence, with a sentence of 10 years. And the court had to decide on the fate of Dylan, the 19-year-old. They decided that he shouldn't have been involved in this, and given a second chance, he might be able to get his life back on track. So he was charged with tampering and obstructing, but he was only given 5 years of probation. As for the killer couple, Tony was given 16 years for tampering with evidence and obstruction of justice, and Danny was charged with murder and abuse of a corpse, and given a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 24 years. Thanks again, Surfshark, for sponsoring this video.
Ach, Chat, ey, krank, was da alles abgeht, ey, das ist krank, ey, das ist doch nicht mehr normal. Ey, meine Freunde, hat mich auf jeden Fall gefreut, meine Soldaten. Ich werde vielleicht später nochmal live kommen. Vielleicht reagieren wir mal noch auf etwas, mal schauen. Ansonsten, wir sehen uns definitiv morgen. Ich wünsche euch ganz viel Spaß, genießt die Tage mit der Familie. Mit den Familienangehörigen und genießt die Zeit.